Braxcast time once again. This is the 58th episode of the Braxcast, and we've got a pretty exciting episode. Of course, I don't have a statue to show off, and we don't have a book that's fulfilling this week, so it's going to be a little bit slower, but there still is a lot of stuff going on in the Rippaverse. I did the third Braxcast live yesterday on the day that this is first releasing, Saturday. So if you tuned into that, thank you very much. I love tuning in with you guys and nerding out about the Rippaverse. And that's something that's going to keep on being the case because we've got the Rippaverse Roundtable Mondays at 6 p.m. Central. So I'm definitely going to be getting in on this, and you should as well if it fits in with your schedule. So it's going to be live streams, much in the way like a Twitter space. It's going to be on all platforms, and you're going to have a rotating panel of Rippaverse staff members on these roundtables. So it's going to be really interesting to see what gets talked about. It's, of course, going to be spoiler streams. I don't think we're going to have any big news announcements, but we're going to be talking about spoiler streams and having a lot of really interesting conversations. So this is something that we found out, or I would say I found out about on my stream. We were talking about that. So really, really interesting to see. And of course, Gabriel and the Guardians #0 is fulfilling as well. And ISOM #3 hit that 500,000 milestone. We talked about all of that on the live stream, but I figured I'd give a quick little mention to all of these little bits of news that happened yesterday and throughout the week. Because it's really interesting stuff, and it is just very indicative that the Rippaverse is in a fantastic spot. But another thing that happened on Wednesday was the launch of Great War Separation 2. Now, of course, I talked about that on the last episode of the Braxcast, so really exciting to see Great War Separation get its continuation so quickly, because that first issue definitely sets up a lot, which means that we need to find out more. This is, of course, Cover A, done by Eduardo Mello with Luca Pinelli doing the colors. It looks absolutely fantastic. I believe these are going to be the villain excepts, the ones who are working for the federal government. And it does seem like she, the one with the mask and who's in more of the background, was on the Cover A for Great War Separation #1. So it's going to be really interesting to see how these characters are introduced and how they play into the larger story of the Great War Separation that is, of course, being told over 4 issues in a limited series, with this second issue being 72 pages, where the first one was 56. And you've got the same team working on this for the most part, the exception being Marco Lesko is taking on the coloring work instead of Candace Hahn. Which is pretty typical for comic book series, is that you'll have a variety of colors, even inkers, and even pencilers working on projects. So nothing new there in terms of having a different colors, but Candace did great work on Great War Separation 1, and I believe she's colored some of the color C and D is her work. But this is Cover B of Great War Separation 2, drawn by Jack Jadson, and Marcos Martins is doing the colors. This is, of course, the retro cover. Cover B is really settled into being that retro cover, which we absolutely love. You see that approved by the Rippaverse Code of Ethics. You've got the character box to Brian Solari, and this is where we find out that Newt Rojo and Absolute Zero are being introduced in the Great War Separation #2. Those are the evil accepts unleashed. The war is over for someone, but who? So, of course, we're going to get a death, and Chuck Dixon has written, I think, every Rippaverse book just about. He's written deaths. Even Great War Separation 1, although there were more minor characters. But really, really interesting to see Great War Separation #2 have drama like that. Of course, we've got the foil and embossed Cover C. This is featuring a really epic shot of Brian Solari. He's wearing the green, he's got the mask on, or I should say the visor. This is drawn by Joe Plato, and as I mentioned before, Candace Hahn is doing the coloring on this, and it looks absolutely fantastic. I'm sure it's going to look even better in person because it is that foil and embossed cover, which means it is bit more pricey. I believe this is like $38, and the cheapest cover is like all in that like $25 range. I don't remember exactly, but we do have the mass print cover. Speaking of it, and it is drawn by Kane White. Kane White's an absolutely fantastic artist, and this is more or less like the hero shot. You see the governor there. His name is escaped me. I remember Plessy Sanders. He was originally the governor and then the lieutenant. That is him. His name is escaping me at this moment, but you've got the shot of the Austin Capitol building, and then you've got the Texas flag, which is burning, and of course you got the fire surrounding them all around. Very nice cover. Absolutely love to see it. Kanan White does fantastic work, which is why I'm so glad that he's on an ongoing series with Rippaverse in Sersha. But that is Great War Separation number 2. Of course, it's a little bit over $50,000, I believe, around 2,500 books sold. Of course, those collection numbers are going to change as it goes throughout its collection run. And of course, this is going to be one that's going to have a lot of sales after the fact. And I think what's going to make Great War Separation really hit its stride is when its collected series launches, or when it finishes its run and you can buy all 4 individually at once. Whatever people want to do in terms of getting them all at once. I think a lot of people are going to jump in on Great War Separation once all the books are out there, and that'll probably be around summer of next year if they keep releasing at the pace that they're releasing, which I honestly love the fact that these books are just coming out like that. But we do have another book to talk about, another Art of book. 2 weeks in a row, I've got Art of books for you. This is, of course, the Art of Debora Carita. This is featuring the January picture, or the artwork of Yaira that was used for January in that 2025 calendar that the Rippaverse released. I did go over it all on a previous episode of the Braxcast, so be sure to check that out. But we are checking out the Art of Debora Carita, so of course we will read the back and then we'll get right into the book. So Debora Carita takes center stage in this extraordinary art collection from the Rippaverse. Celebrating her remarkable achievements and transformative contributions to the world of comics, lose yourself in the vibrant world of a celebrated comic book artist whose work, from her transformative illustrations on Yaira to her collaborations with major publishers, has captivated fans across the globe. Carita's career has flourished through her time in the comic book industry, with some of her best work on Yaira, a powerful and dynamic hero in the Rippaverse, where she brought the character to life with unmatched vibrancy, emotion, and storytelling depth. From her iconic contributions to Yaira to her breathtaking interpretations of characters and stories, each page is a testament to her unique ability to evoke emotion, energy, and wonder. Her contributions have solidified her place as one of the comic industry's brightest talents. This collectible art book shows some of her most iconic, breathtaking pieces, offering a stunning visual feast and a must-have piece for fans, while celebrating her creative journey and unparalleled artistry. Whether you're an art enthusiast, a comic book lover, or someone who simply cherishes exceptional creativity, the Art of Debora Carita offers a captivating journey through the soul-stirring beauty and storytelling brilliance of one of the industry's most dynamic artists. So, absolutely love that little back matter splurge, or a little description on the back. So this is, of course, drawn by Debora Carita. This is her art, and she's doing the narration as well. Absolutely love to see artists narrate their own work. Invisible Art Studio is lettering this, and they settled into lettering basically all the Rippaverse stuff. And of course, you've got the editor-in-chief is Eric July, and assistant to him is Carol Brown, and then Andrew Rodriguez and Igor are also editors on this, and we're jumping right in. So this is art from Yaira 1, so this is featuring art from Yaira 1 and 2. We're starting with this page right here. On this page, a slightly larger frame emphasizes our surprise at one of the punks being suddenly shot. As everyone is wearing masks, I wanted to show Stefania's emotion through her eyes alone. Definitely does a great job at that. Absolutely love to see this art. Let's see, and her pencil work is just so detailed. It's like Joe Bennett's, just so much detail in the pencil work. It's like you're looking at final inks. On this page, I tried to show all of Yaira's emotional conflict in the expressions on her face. She is grander and much stronger than Stefania, but she uses her strength to protect her. Absolutely love that artwork there. We're moving on. Here I show how Yaira's fighting can cause some havoc in the city, despite her frightening and striking appearance in panel 1, upward view, or upwards view. In the last panel, I show Yaira hit by her opponents in the opposite way of how it started. So you see she's got that upwards position. She's more advantageous. And then you see her get thrusted into the car, and then she's in that defensive position there. I see Nessa and Yantoni are flying to her. This is one of, in the beginning of Yaira number 1, I believe. The highlight of this page, and we're going for this page here, is the grandeur of Yaira's house, the details of the objects in the house, and the contrast of her imposing figure next to Stefania's abuela Carmen. So you definitely see Yaira's got quite the figure. She's definitely very substantial. Because, you know, she's like a 6'1" alien woman, and that's how all of her race are. They're definitely like a head taller than the average human you see. She was taller than her, and they have like quite the look when they're standing next to each other. I'm sure that will be shown off later in this art book, but we're going on to the art in Yaira number 1, so we're looking at this page right here. On this page, I wanted to show how Stefania, despite her powers, is still vulnerable to her punk friends, as she is much smaller and shorter than them. In the first frame, the angle from above gives us the feeling that we are secretly watching the gang in their hideout. Yeah, definitely love the way you're framing. So perspective is a massive thing in comics, and with Jack Herbert's with the art of Jack Herbert, I should say, he spent a lot of his commentary establishing the way page layouts were set up and how that contributed to the themes that were trying to be established from page to page. So Deborah's just as aware of that, and she's just as cautious, or I should say careful, in how she uses her perspective to tell the story, which is fantastic. This is probably one of the best pages from Yaira, is this prison scene, and it's one of the most grandiose. I mean, there's just so much detail here, but the perspective used on this page allows the entire prison fight to be shown in its entirety, with a wide view of the action. Although the figures are arranged to show a great deal of confusion, Yaira is strategically kept in the center of the larger panel so that she is more easily spotted among the main characters. Yeah, you can definitely see Yaira's got that very prominent role, even though everything looks so small and there's just so much stuff going on. You can still very clearly make out Yaira, and of course you've got those two panels there that give the reader even more, I say, context to this scene. Absolutely love it. Probably some of the best work that came out of this page. Of course, we've got this page right here. In the first few panels, I emphasize the fact that Yaira is clearly more fantastical than an ordinary human being in all the different places she goes, even inside Projexus. Also on this page, I show Yaira's nudity in a more scientific way using the perspective from above. You can definitely see that, of course, the censorship is very creative. It reminds me of how Pal Rodrigues did all the censoring of Ten's private bits in the first issue of Perfect 10. Absolutely fantastic the way that he went about this, and it reminds me of the way Debora Carita goes about with censoring Yaira's more sensitive bits. Absolutely fantastic how she does that, and it does have that scientific look to it. Love to see it. But we're going on for this one. So in the bigger panel, my main job was to create an anatomy scheme of Yaira's internal organs, making them look alien. I also thought about keeping blood vessels and other structures that would make the organs functional, but the perspective also creates a feeling of the full view that a doctor has on the operating table. Definitely a really great scene from Yaira, and definitely adds more context to us because we get to literally get a peek inside Yaira. And this was, of course, I believe, after the oil rig incident, which doesn't seem to be shown off here, at least not for now. In the first frame, the top-down perspective I used was intended to convey the feeling of eavesdropping on Stefania and Alpha Core's conversation, as well as giving an insight into Stefania's fragility. The fact that Solari is clearly face-to-face with her shows us that there is a conflict in this conversation between them. Absolutely fantastic. This is definitely one of the more slower panels. Definitely love how Debora depicts all the members of Alpha Core. It's certainly different from how Joe Bennett does it, but it's still very distinctly them, and it still really fits into the broader style that she goes for. But we're heading on to the next page. In the first panel, I showed how Yaira will take the lead in this fight, even though she is in the midst of the powerful Alpha Core team. Although the powers of Yaira's enemies are great, I've shown Yaira from below in every frame, highlighting her power and showing that even when she's threatened, she's still confident and imposing. Absolutely love that. And this is just such a detailed drawing. There's just so much detail, and it still looks clear and distinct. That's why I say Yaira's art is probably some of the best art in the Rippaverse. And with Yaira too, Debora Carita's art really helps keep that book as good as it was for me, despite the fact that Probably had a little bit, could have used it as a 72 pager with all the stuff that went on in that book, but that's a commentary on Yaira #2. Let's keep commentating on these fantastic art books. So we've got this page right here. So on this page, making the third panel vertical helps me to show the direction of lava erupting from the volcano upwards in a dynamic way. So the third panel, let's see, so we got 1, 2, 3. I mean, all these panels seem to be vertical to me, but it definitely has a really nice perspective, and this is definitely the climax of Yaira #1. Very, very important. So this is art from Yaira #2. So the angle of the larger panel of Yaira's walk helps us take a new tour of her home. In the center, her armor is highlighted. In the last panel, the smaller objects are kept in the foreground so that they have the same prominent effect. So yeah, the smaller objects are kept in the foreground. So this absolutely does look fantastic. So just all of this, the scene was definitely one that was depicted quite well. Of course, this is Yaira's dreams, and she's got this massive mental struggle. Of course, it seems to be that the warfare that Yaira's engaged in isn't purely physical, but that is definitely talking about the specifics of Yaira 2. So I use a slightly lower camera angle to show Yaira's stateliness and elegance in her fashionable clothes. In the last panel, I use an architectural structure that is different as possible to show that this is a high-tech construction on the water by a different civilization. So them having found the lost city of Atlantis. And of course, Yaira's got these designer clothes here. I love her wardrobe choices as Sally Rodell. I mean, not only do they emphasize her figure, they just look striking. You know, you've got the hat and everything. You got the way the dress just drapes over her. Looks absolutely fantastic. And of course, that's why you've got the paparazzi asking who she's wearing. You've got this another scene here. Again, the star is just so detailed and just so nice to look at. On this page, I've positioned the camera in various different angles around Altona to place us in the scene, as if we were snooping around in every way, trying to see what news will be revealed to the press first. In the second to last panel, the front view makes Sally's, Yaira's scientific discovery clear to everyone like a headline. Absolutely fantastic. And this is probably some of the best work is at the beginning. It's when in the middle and the end is where it's starting to heat up, and there's just all of this stuff happening. And with so few pages to explain it, it's jumping around a lot. They still maintain a pretty coherent pacing, but it could have had a couple extra pages just to give us a little bit of breathing room, because there's just so much that goes on in Yaira #2. But we're calling on to this page right here. On this page, I use close-ups, strange angles, and subjective vision to put the reader inside Sally's nightmare. The images jumping quickly from one scene to another help reinforce this feeling of vertigo. Absolutely fantastic. And of course, you've got Magus Newmite and Magus Newmite barging in on Altona and Yaira's dinner. I should say Altona and Sally's dinner. But this probably, again, this was a preview page for Yaira #2 when we first got that collection in January. And this is, again, some fantastic art. Of course, it shows off Yaira's figure, but it's just so well drawn. On this page, I wanted to emphasize Yaira's sensuality as the camera stares at her from top to bottom, like an observer enchanted by her beauty, but who looks at her in a slightly hidden way. Definitely achieves that, especially in this panel. Really highlights the voluptuousness of her figure. And of course, you've got these that show off, you know, her wearing the high heels and her taking off her shawl. And of course, she's in that very, I'm not sure skimpy is the right word, but it definitely, that one piece does not leave a lot to the imagination, which is why people love Yaira 2 as much as they do. Now another scene here, I made the panels on this page almost the same size to show the feeling of Yaira's submarine ship steadily and gradually descending toward the bottom of the sea. The direction of the front of the ship also helps guide the reader to the next page. Fantastic work there. Don't have much to add to this. I mean, this is some very detailed stuff, especially in the background. I wanted to place Atlantis' construction debris next to the octopus's tentacles so that the reader could begin to get an idea of the creature's enormous size while still building suspense. The dark waters, in contrast to the dim light of the lantern, increase the sense of the fear of the unknown. Definitely think the coloring helps really tie these scenes in together. It looks really good just as pencils, but the inking and the color work really help build up that tension that Deborah is talking about. Let's see here. We've got this reveal of Atlantis, of course. I mean, you've got so many panels, but they are all so detailed. On this page, I wanted to feel like they were diving alongside Yaira and Yeshua, and also hiding with them to observe the conversation between Kalito and Neptune. The small figures of Kalito and Neptune help keep a safe distance so that Yaira isn't discovered. So definitely see how you've got Yaira up there and this conversation is happening somewhere there. So there's a bit of distance, and of course it's even more obvious down there. So we've got this here. Let's see. On this page, I wanted to make Yaira really explode by finally showing her best known costume to the reader. In the last larger panel, we see the break of an agonizing sequence, and Yaira points to the next page as if in escape or flight. So moving on here, I believe this is the last page. The extras running away from the hail/ice rock show the danger of all the action. The scale of the huge wave in the background compared to the buildings help me show the size of this apocalyptic type scene. And of course, this is near the very end of Yaira number 2, and we've got a lot of stuff that is being established in Yaira number 2 that Yaira number 3 is going to have to really do some work explaining. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this art book. Hopefully, despite my framing and poor reading, you can enjoy that. I believe this is the first art book that has the Rippaverse ethic in it. Absolutely love them doing that. Hopefully they maintain that going forward for art books. But that was the Art of Debora Carita. Absolutely fantastic work by Deborah. I am loving these art books. Community is as well. Just as high quality as anything in the Rippaverse. And I love the fact that these accompany the comics themselves, and having this commentary I think is really invaluable to the fans, and just basically anybody who appreciates good art and all the work and effort it takes to make comics as gripping and engaging as they are, especially something as good as Yaira. But that is all I have for you guys for this episode of the Braxcast. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Hopefully you keep enjoying everything that Velvet Room Publishing is putting out, which Braxcast is part of that. And if it's just Braxcast, I appreciate you all the same. But Joker is out. Thank you for tuning in to the Braxcast. Be sure to like, comment, follow, and subscribe to keep up with the Rippaverse.